All right, let's do it. Yep. Good evening, everybody. This is Seth Engelborg, Chair of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We are meeting today for our July 10th meeting in a hybrid fashion. Some people physically present in the public safety facility room and others on Zoom. What we'll be doing first is going through the continuance. Actually, before we do that, we need to establish a quorum of members. So members, when you hear your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mike Mazzarelli.
Here.
Joe Plandowski.
Here.
Tim Brain.
Here.
John Schaefer.
Here.
And Seth Engelborg is here. And now we'll be going through our continuances on tonight's agenda. So the following are continued. Under notice of intent, we have the land bank at Smooth Hummocks Way, SC 48 3893, continued till July 24th. We have the land bank at 41 Jefferson Avenue, SC 48 3910, continued till July 24th. The Wisconsin Beach Preservation Fund at 59 through 83 Baxter Road, SC 48 3759, continued till July 24th. We have West Assured LLC at 62 Winoma Way, SC 48 3869, continued till July 24th. We have Sanctity Golf Club Inc. at 18 Hoyks Hollow Road, SC 48 3911, continued till July 24th. And we have Wilner at 16 Codfish Park Road, SC 48 3912, continued to July 24th. And then, let's see if there's anything else. I believe that's it for our continuances. So with those continuances read, commissioners, I need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Joe, for the second. No, we don't have to do a roll call vote. Let's do a yay or nay vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, abstain, no, that carries unanimously. We will we'll move on to public comment. This is for items not on the agenda tonight. We will be holding to the 3-minute public comment time period and using the select board's established protocols for not deliberating. If you have a public comment and you're physically present in the room, please approach the mic and introduce yourself. And if you have a public comment on Zoom, raise your hand. At this time, are there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our public hearing. And we'll go down to notice of intent, section C, waiver required for pre-January 1st submissions. And we have the Summer House of Nantucket Realty Trust at 10 and 16 Ocean Avenue, SC 48 3824. Is Art Gasparo here with us, or Valerie, are you taking this?
I can't see whether Art is in the room, so I will take the lead here. Good evening, commissioners. For the record, my name is Valerie Moore. I'm an attorney with Nutter, McLennan and Fish at 155 Seaport Boulevard in Boston. I want to thank you all for your time this evening. We've provided the commission with several supplemental materials to augment the record before the commission with respect to the notice of intent before you. As a reminder, the notice of intent before you seeks permission solely to remove portions of the deck and to relocate an existing shed. It did not seek approval for dining in the dunes because with respect to dining in the dunes, our position remains that this is not a jurisdictional activity under either the Wetlands Protection Act or the bylaw. But as I've previously discussed that with the commission, I'm not going to repeat the arguments to that point this evening. Even if this activity were jurisdictional, it predates both the Wetlands Protection Act and the Nantucket Wetlands bylaw. To support that point, we have submitted an affidavit from Tracy Root and a letter from John Shea, both longtime island residents who have both worked at, patronized, and in the case of Mr. Shea, owned the summer house. both Ms. Root and Mr. Shea aver that the dining activity in the dune in front of the beach dates back to at least the early 1970s, which is when both of them came to Nantucket for the first time. Accordingly, the commission has sufficient evidence to find that dining in the dunes is grandfathered and accordingly not subject to regulation under the act or the bylaw, because the act was enacted in 1972 and the bylaw was enacted in the 1980s. So both Mr. Shea and Ms. Root were able to speak to 1970 and 1971, thus establishing the historic dining in the dunes use. But finally, should the commission determine that dining in the dunes is jurisdictional or that it is not grandfathered despite there being no evidence to the contrary, we also submitted a supplemental report from coastal geologist Stan Humphreys. Mr. Humphreys is available by phone and can speak to his report for the commission and how it demonstrates that the dining in the dunes activity complies with all of the performance standards in the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw. And there is no evidence that this long-standing seasonal limited activity has had any impact on the secondary dune. So I believe Mr. Humphreys is on the attendee list as the phone call-in listener that with the number that ends in 1654. If you can give him the ability to speak, he can speak to his report in more detail.
Will, you want to do that?
Yep, just did. He's got a. I think he's muted. There you go.
Mr. Humphreys, if you can hear us, go ahead.
Yes, I can, and I apologize for not being visually on the call. I submitted a letter to the commission to mainly try and confirm some of the data I had acquired through aerial photo interpretation. A site visit was conducted on June 27th, mainly to compare an unused area just south of this area and try and differentiate for the commission what I believe is the difference in function primarily between the primary frontal dune seaward of the V zone and what I'm calling a secondary dune more landward. We could go through any questions the commission might have about the photos themselves, but essentially it led me to make the argument that I believe that there's a negligible value to the dune stability with the sparse sprigs of beach grass that are in the dining area. There's also an adjacent area not used for dining that's very similar, and some photos support that. Therefore, in arriving at what I believe is a negligible or small enough to be disregarded impact by the project, that means that there would be no adverse impact on the effect on the dune. I go through the performance standards, offering justification for the negligible impact, and I guess I would just conclude by saying that I disagree with the comments that were offered by Nantucket, the Land and Water Council, namely that the secondary dune does not pose a long-term risk to stability and ecological integrity of the dune system, and that there's no evidence that the project may already be degrading the dune structure, and that the project increases the risk of this area becoming more vulnerable to erosion and coastal storm damage. With that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Gasparo, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just echo Mr. Humphrey's, comments and our observations that we surveyed for you the edge of the bare sand area, and we're sure to show that on the plan as well. In the providing that information so that you had that as to where exactly this activity is occurring, and I'd be available for other questions if needed.
Thank you. I'll note for the record that Commissioners Turcott and Williams arrived to this meeting at 5:06 PM. However, both are recused from this application. That's why they're not sitting at the table, but they are here. At this point, Commissioners, any questions or comments? Okay, I'll just say something quick and then we'll go to the public. So I appreciate the letters that came in documenting the historic use of the site, but the threshold that we're looking at is a little bit more specific than just has been used since before the act of the bylaw. Not only do we need that to justify pre-existing use, we also need to definitively prove, or we don't, the applicant needs to definitively prove that the use has been in continuous use since before those dates and hasn't been abandoned for any period of 5 years or more. And if it has been abandoned for 5 years or more, then the pre-existing use waiver shall not apply. That's what our regulation, our local regulations say at least. So without definitive proof that this has existed, since the 60s, like they're talking about, until 2025 without any 5-year breaks, we don't have enough information to make a decision on pre-existing use or not. I thought I was clear at the last hearing. That's what I was asking of the applicant. They submitted some letters, which I found historically very interesting and intriguing. It doesn't really answer the question that we're talking about. We need definitive data, either surveys, aerial photographs, could be, I guess, receipts from the table. I mean, it could be anything, but it has to be definitive proof that there was no 5-year period of abandonment in order to really say that this dune, dining in the dunes qualifies for pre-existing use waiver. Without that, I'm not comfortable granting that waiver. It may be the case that it does qualify, but we simply don't have the information that we need. So at this point, I'll go to members of the public. If you wish to speak and you're physically present in the room, come to the microphone. If you are online, raise your hand virtually via Zoom. Yes, please introduce yourself for the record, any connection you have to the project, and then say your piece.
Hi, my name is Willa Arsenal. I'm speaking on behalf of the Nantucket Land and Water Council. We appreciate the applicant's response and Mr. Humphrey's considerations, but we continue to stand by the concerns that were outlined in our earlier letter. At this point, really, I would just respectfully ask the commission to consider the broader implications of finding this type of commercial use to be permissible in sensitive areas like this. If this is not considered a regulated activity, it risks setting a precedent that could weaken the commission's ability to manage similar impacts across the island. Something like this can always be waivered and then approved by the commission, which allows to have more oversight, or allows you to have more oversight. It's a critical and sensitive area, and so I just think it's something that should be considered as carefully as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, yeah, please come to the microphone. We need you to be on the microphone in order to pick up that for the video recording. Please introduce yourself with your name, your connection to the project, and say your piece.
Danielle Lee Benedictus. I'm trustee of the Summer House in Nantucket Realty Trust, and I've been trustee of that trust since the Summer House in Nantucket Realty Trust purchased the property in 1980. But prior to that, in the 70s, I owned a home here, and I was a frequent visitor of what then was the Summer House run by Sandy Rubin. And I can personally attest that I was there during the time that we've owned the property. I've been there multiple times per week. And prior to us owning the property, I was there 3 or 4 times per week with my children. And particularly, we allowed the Murray Camp to use the premises for the operation of their camp before they had a building. And my children were young and learned how to swim in the pool and go to the beach at the bistro. And there has never been a time that this property has not been in continuous use, where we were serving some form of food and beverage at that property. And we have been very careful never to, even with a dead tree that is an eyesore, ever touch it or cut it down or anything. And we are only serving on a very flat beach that's in between pre-existing bushes that have never been touched in all these years. And very analogous to the service at the galley where they're serving, you know, when we talk about precedent, they've certainly set precedent for having hundreds of people there on a beach. And we're serving on a very small fraction of the property that we do own. And I want to put you at ease to that I can personally testify that it was continuous use. And I'm sure that John could. He couldn't be here tonight because he had a prior commitment. And also could Tracy Root, who's presently out of the country. And if it was a question of continuous use, just the other night, a group came in with T-shirts saying that they worked at the Moby Dick 50 years ago, which was the predecessor to the summer house. And they were all gentlemen that I had never met before. And I am sure I could gather evidence from these people of the continuous use. And therefore, I was unaware until right now is a question of continuity. And of course, I can personally testify to that. So I also have some historical data in forms of pictures and things. And so I would ask that before you would rule on this, if this was something that's of concern to you, as expressed by you, and so I want to address all of your concerns, that we could continue the matter and give you an opportunity to contact some of these old Moby Dickers for 50 years. And so I could get some affidavits from them. And I didn't realize, I'm sure that both Tracy and John could have testified that it was in continuous use because they are there multiple times a week, both of them, and have been historically since I've owned the property.
Thank you. Yes, if you could compile all that information for us, any affidavits you have, any pictures, any aerial imagery, any receipts, any schematics, any anything you have that could show in every single year that this building operated, whether it was the summer house or something before it, every single year, at least until before 1972, that this specific function, it's clear that the summer house or some version of it had a commercial use on the site prior to 1972. But we need to prove that not only did the property exist, but did that specific function of the Dunes dining exist? We need records really from every year from 1972 until 2025 in order to say that this qualifies as a pre-existing use. So if you could compile that information, we would appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be able to do that. I hope I'm not a victim of having thrown away things. You know, when you decide to throw away something, it always seems that you come back to it and say, that's the thing I shouldn't have thrown away. But I do know that I can garner material, and particularly, I've been very interested to have a party at the summer house of everyone who ever worked at the summer house that's still alive. And when these gentlemen came in from 50 years ago, I got their names and numbers, and this was just the other night, past the submittal for this hearing. And I respect that your concerns, and I respect the entity of the Concom. And if you give me some opportunity to submit some more materials, I would like to be able to do so.
Yes, we will certainly give you that opportunity. The burden of proof to prove this is on the applicant, so you have as much time as you want. You know, we can't close the hearing without your consent. You can continue this as long as you need. We will go back to the public, and then if the public doesn't have anything else to add, we'll continue to a date certain for you to get that information for us.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you as well. Anyone else from the public wish to speak at this moment? Seeing not. Okay. There's several people representing the applicant, and the owner of this property has indicated her interest in continuing. Ms. Moore, what would you like to do here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to continue to the commission's, I believe, August 7th hearing date would give us sufficient time to reach out to these individuals because we'll be requesting affidavits from them in order to supplement the record before you to establish that the operation has been continuous and was never abandoned for any period of 5 years or more.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly continuous. There was no break of 5 years or more, but if you could provide that information for us, that would be great. And this will continue to August 7th. Thank you all for participating tonight.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. And That is the only notice of intent we have on our agenda today. Linda and RJ, you can join the table at this point. They continued. No, they continued. Well, we have other business. We have certificates of compliance and. I mean, if you're here, sit at the table. If you're not, then leave. I mean, yeah. If you want to leave, you can leave, but either sit at the table or. That's fine, but either sit at the table or leave now, so. Okay.
Remember last year I was on a headset running up.
Yeah, no, when you need to leave, you need to leave. We'll get over it. All right, so we're moving on into the public meeting. I don't believe we have any orders of conditions tonight, because nothing closed. Will, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, we have no RDAs, we have no minor modifications. So we'll move on to certificates of compliance. The first is MUL 25 LLC at 25 Willard Street. Okay, this is SC 483503, represented by Mark Ritz, and Commissioner Williams is recused. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, Mark Ritz from Site Design, representing the applicants at 25 Willard. The project that was approved was elevation of the existing house with a few minor additions and modifications and the construction of a garage. The work has been done in compliance with the orders. Wetland areas that needed to be cordoned off have been and have been allowed to revegetate. Basically, I think at the last meeting, we forgot to include topo shots on the plan. So we've provided a plan that has some ground shots on it. There haven't been any significant changes to grade on the property, an inch or two here or there, but no real changes. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Will, have you been out to the site and do you have a recommendation for us?
Yes, I have. Let me just make sure that I actually have the right. Here we go. I'm recommending we issue the cert. I did have two continuing conditions, 20, sorry, that was probably really far away, 20 and 23. So 20 is that permanent markers shall be installed on the edge of the lawn, and 23, all exterior shall be directed down and away from the bordering vegetated wetland.
Thank you.
There's a word missing.
Commissioners, is there a motion to issue the cert with the ongoing conditions that Will identified?
So moved.
Thank you, RJ. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That carries 6 in the affirmative with Commissioner Williams recused. Thank you, Mark. Yes. We'll move on now to South Slip LLC at 29A Old North Wharf, SC 483592, represented by Art Gasparo. Art, hello again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This project was for replacement of the wave fence along the pier. This is opposite of where the High Line comes in. There was some damage, and it was an in-kind replacement. That work has been completed in substantial compliance with the order.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
We just didn't put it up for the public,
No, it's in the packet, so
if you can find it.
you can if you try hard enough. Will, do you have a recommendation for us? Have you been out to the site?
Yes, also side note, I'm happy to give anybody a quick training on the new portal system. I am recommending issuance of the cert. There are no ongoing conditions. This one just had 18 and 19.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Linda and Joe, for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Now we'll move on to Kate's. There's two orders two certs at 14 Bassett Road. These are SC 48 3016 and SC 48 1292, represented by Rick Bodette, if he's here, or somebody else. Oh, Mr. Dale, good evening.
Good evening. I represent the Cates and I'm asking to have these certificates issued, please.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Will, have you been out to the site and do you have recommendations for us?
Yep, and I'm sorry, were we hearing these together?
Yes, together.
So the first one, I'm recommending issuance of both, but our first one has one continuing condition.
Read out the number, the
and-
file number for that.
Yep. I was getting there,
Sorry.
man. It's SE 483016. And our condition continuing on here is condition 20, that all lighting shall be directed downwards and away from the resource area. And then oops, on our older order here, which is SE 481292, we had 4 continuing conditions. They're kind of long. 18, to minimize adverse effects on wildlife and water resources, the use of any pesticide, herbicide, or fertilizer requires explicit permission to be granted by the commission. The condition shall be noted on the COC as an ongoing condition that shall survive the expiration of this order, as we are. 19, maintenance of the swimming pool is restricted such that filling of the pool with water will be done using off-site water supplies. Similarly, all water drained from the pool will be transported off-site for proper disposal at an approved upland site. The pool shall not be chlorinated within 2 weeks of emptying. 21, these are wordy. Screening for the pool shall include fencing above finished decking to a minimum height of 6 feet. All lighting will be directed to surfaces inside of the fencing and limited to pathway access ways outside of the pool decking and fencing areas. During periods of extended non-use, the pool surface shall be covered. These measures are required to minimize disturbance to wildlife and wildlife habitat. 24, to minimize adverse effects on wildlife and water resources, the use of any insecticide, except for those applied directly to one's person, requires explicit permission to be granted by the commission. This condition shall be noted on the COC as an ongoing condition that shall survive the expiration of the order. That's kind of redundant with the first one, but they're both on there.
Okay. Commissioners, is there a motion to issue the certificates of compliance for SC 48, 3016, and 1292 with the ongoing conditions that Will identify?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you, Linda and Mike, for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstain? That carries, those carry unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. And we'll move on. We don't have any extension requests. In other business, we don't have any minutes to approve. We don't have any monitoring reports to talk about. So we'll go to committee reports. We have crack.
Nothing new.
Okay, CPC,
Nothing new.
NP and EDC,
Nothing new.
Harbor Plan.
We're rolling along. We're gonna have a final version here in a couple of weeks because we had to move the public hearing from the middle of July to probably the middle of August because we had trouble with quorums a couple of times. So they're making some final tweaks to it, and we should have a final version to go out to the stakeholders, including us, within the week or so.
Okay. Commissioners' comments.
Great meeting, Mr. Chairman. Half an hour?
We're close. Yes, Mike, go ahead.
I'll follow up with my comment on the new agendas and minutes system is a little user challenging for me. I know it's not going to change anything to make the comment, but I'm making the comment, it's just not me.
Every board.
Yeah. So I will probably take Will up on the tutorial.
Not gonna help.
Thank
It will.
Anyone else?
No, I won't.
If you open
go
your
ahead.
mind.
I'm not opening it.
I have a question on that same
ahead.
topic. Is there going to be a way to click onto individual projects, or is it always going to be one giant
Hopefully, but for
document?
now, you have to just use the table of contents and put the page number in and hit enter, and it will take you to the spot that you need to go.
They have
Will
not
it
been
ever,
able to
will it ever
download
work on your iPhone or your iPad?
I don't know.
I can.
What's
uh,
happened-
We'll
What's
can talk.
improved about it?
We'll talk.
What's happened about some of the, I'll tell you what's happened at the HDC. Some of them have the older, smaller iPads that the town gave you. The files load so slowly, and they're so big because of the new system, they cannot open their view packs. This is something that they're telling me that they're working on still. They did it to save money. It went from 10 grand a month to 3 grand a month, and they have not been able to work out the kinks because I can't get into most of my HDC stuff,
Okay, yeah, Will, do you have an update for us?
and I don't care to learn.
Can't help you with that. But I was just gonna say, I know that they're planning to try and make it so that there's clickable links at the beginning of that endless scroll of packet documents, because that would be very helpful. I also, I had some issues learning how to navigate that system, so there's no judgment coming from me, but I can definitely help. If you're willing.
No,
Yeah. Any other commissioners' comments?
it's horrible.
Yes, Mike?
Just congratulations to everybody who was reappointed and sworn in today. Are we planning on doing officers tonight or next meeting, or what's your thought there, Mr. Chairman?
We'll need to do it next meeting. We'll need to do committee designation or committee appointments and officer elections at the next meeting because it didn't make it onto this agenda. Technically, the officers' terms have expired as of yesterday, and technically all of your committee appointments have expired as of yesterday. However, the policy is generally that in the absence of a new vote, you can continue to serve, but we do need to promptly do that at the 7:24 meeting, so let's make sure it gets on the agenda.
And you're chairman for life?
Well, you guys have to figure that out, so. If you wish to apply for an officer role, you can let Will know, or you can make your name known at the meeting. If you wish to apply for a committee role, you can do the same. Anything else?
He's going to be vice chair of the planning commission.
No? Okay. Oh, yeah, John, go ahead.
I'm going to be out of the country August 21st for that meeting, so I won't be.
August 21st?
How about July
How
24th?
about July 21st?
Oh, no, August. Isn't there a meeting in August?
There's meetings in August, yeah, but the officer ones we're doing in July.
Oh, no, I'll be here for that, but
Okay.
the one I'm going to miss is in August.
That's
Sorry.
fine, yeah.
Okay.
People miss meetings, not a big deal.
I'm
Okay.
just trying to get to Hyannis.
Okay, so next enforcement actions. Will?
Do you want an update on anything that's currently cooking or
Yeah,
brewing?
yeah,
It's
go
already
ahead.
known. So we're gonna, for Mariah Mitchell, we're going to send a letter first before we issue a full-blown enforcement order.
It's the
Yeah, the
10 at
10.
33 Washington
So
Street.
we're gonna inform them of the violation and request that it be taken down. And in hindsight, that is pretty standard procedure too, unless it's super egregious, which you could always argue.
worries.
But that's kind of the plan as of right now. What else is going on?
Can I just speak to that more? Also,
Yeah.
just let it be known for the record that Commissioner Williams is leaving at 5:34 PM. So the reason for the standard letter rather than proceeding directly into the enforcement is we need more clarification on what constitutes temporary status for a tent. Because our regulations don't explicitly really say. So we need to set a fair standard for everybody. And we need to, when we have our next regulatory update, talk about what is considered a structure and what is considered fixed in place. That's what our regulations say is a structure, and how long something needs to be. If you put up a tent for an hour, is it a structure? If you put a tent for a day? You know, for in this case, it's been up for multiple months, and I think they're intending on keeping it up for more months. But we need to set a standard. So at this point, we're just going to send a letter and then have a meeting to discuss a fair standard moving forward. Yeah, but we can't, you know, act in one way towards one property and act differently to other properties. So, yeah, but that is the plan moving forward. And we are planning to have a regulatory update meeting with George, right?
Yes, we don't have a date yet. but I have the date from you guys. He is still, I'm still waiting on it. Excuse me. I'm still yawning through my, I'm still waiting on his written opinion on all that stuff, including the like appointment of another officer. But I do have everybody's response to my doodle poll. So I do have a list of dates, and George has like cleared his schedule for all those dates, so we've got him. But I'm just waiting for his actual opinion / I'm sure he's still doing research on it. We're keeping him busy. I had one other update too on that, and I think I'm forgetting it. Our plover, I actually want to give an update on this too, because this was just about an hour before the meeting and I almost forgot. George has issued an opinion, or he's issued his thoughts on how we should go about that civil penalty process. And I'll forward it along in his words from an email today, but basically he's recommending that we include it on the order of conditions along with a demand letter.
Does that include where the money goes or who gets to spend it?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you guys this email because I don't want to make up. I think it's very easy for me to make up details right now. I'm in a fog, but I'll send you guys the email tomorrow so you can see his wording. But it seemed to him that it was definitely a better way forward given their willingness to pay the $11,100. And there also was a line about the concerns about where the money could go. I can't remember the reasoning, and I'm not going to make something up.
Okay, thank you. Any other enforcement actions that are new and emerging?
I have nothing new.
Do you have any other staff report?
No other staff reports except for treat your clothing and watch out for ticks.
All right. With that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second? Thank you, Joe, for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Hang on.
Fast.